Hello, fantasy football fans. My name is Gary, aka the IDP Tipster. Joining me tonight is our newly anointed member of Gridiron's Ratings, and I'm really excited to have Kraig on as a permanent fixture here. Um, and of course, you guys know all about James, him and his great outtakes on all IDP. And we're here tonight. We're going to talk about some players that we've talked about in the past. But before we get started, again, I want to welcome Kraig. Kraig, thanks for becoming part of the permanent team.
Yeah, not a problem. Glad to be here and regularly contribute to give people that IDP content that they need.
Yeah, great. James, I know you're in a hurry, buddy. You've got life going on out there in California, and everything's all excited. And we want to make sure that we get to, all the good content tonight. So we're going to skip the warm up, and I'd like you to start on the first player that you personally would like to talk about, that you've talked about recently or this past year, had something to do with.
Yeah, I'll dive right into it. My first guy up, it's Jermaine Pratt. Not necessarily the name that flies off the tongue, not necessarily a name that anyone really thinks about, even though he's relatively young. He's one of those linebackers down in Cincinnati, and when I say one of those linebackers, it's because no one over there has shown any sort of gumption or anything like that in order to actually prove they need to be remembered by name. He's a guy. He's likely going to continue to be a guy his entire career, however long that is. And then after he's done being a guy, he'll be out of the league. And that's fine. And frankly, someone is going to step up and be a guy in Cincinnati because of volume. And Jermaine Pratt's my guy to do that. It's not that I think he's a great talent. It's not that I think he's anything special. It's that I think he's going to get production because he's out there on the field. Gary likes to use this term, and it's a perfect term. It's production by default. Someone has to acquire tackles when you play football. If someone's on the field a lot, they will acquire said tackles. And I think Jermaine Pratt's that guy. Even when you're thinking dynasty, not just a redraft league, he's someone to just stick on your roster, hold, and if he misses, and I'm wrong, he's very easy to cut. He's not anyone that you're going to go, I want to wait a few more weeks, or you're going to regret week 7 when he really heats up. If you miss, and you can quickly get rid of him. He's got enough upside in his age to last for a long time if he does hit. And he's just someone who I think should be on everyone's radar. And I think he's not. I think he's nowhere close to a redraft roster in a 12-man. And I think he should be a little bit closer. So that's my leadoff guy, Jermaine Pratt. Just pay attention to him. Use him as your back-end roster filler, as your lotto ticket, and see what happens.
Yep, no reason he can't step up and take that leap.
With the value proposition that you stated at the end there, I mean, he's basically the end of your draft or a free guy. For the amount of tackles that you're likely to get, he's a great value. I agree with it as well.
Yeah. Go right ahead, Kraig. Got somebody for us?
Yeah, so a lot of these are sort of deeper dives that I had done takes on, and the first one, we're going to stick with linebacking core that's been sort of underwhelming and go over to the Green Bay Packers. Ever since Blake Martinez left, there's been a lot of just shuffling around of their inside linebackers there. And last year, Christian Kirksey, when he was healthy, he did all right, but clearly he wasn't what they wanted, and he's moved on to Houston. They have just a bunch of young guys there. So Kamal Martin is my first guy that I have here. He showed really well when he was able to play last year. He was hurt quite a bit, but they were really high on him for the amount of time, which wasn't much, that he had in camp. To be able to show up when he was on the field, he showed that athleticism that they liked. He was able to cover. He really gets off the ball and goes out there, but that's also what we saw of his detriment. He's a guy that didn't always play under control, but for what they had last year, he was one of their highest rated linebackers in terms of being able to cover, blitz, and also go get the tackles. With a year, basically what I would call his sort of rookie training camp full year coming up here, they're still really high on him, and they don't have a whole lot else. They have Summers, they have Barnes, they have some other rookies that they drafted this year, but none of them really with a whole lot of high draft capital. And with what he showed last year on that team, someone's going to have to step up and, sort of like you said production by default there with Pratt. I think it could be something similar here with the Packers. So Kamal Martin's the one that I like out of their current crop.
Martin actually might, show a little bit more beyond production by default in the second year. Well, that'll be interesting to see if he can establish himself going forward.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything Kraig said. And almost it's kind of like Martin's a little bit higher variance version of a guy like Jermaine Pratt. I think his ceiling's higher than what Pratt can offer. I think he's got more pure talent. But I think his floor is also lower in that if he doesn't produce early, he might not produce because Green Bay's in a clear win now window. And if he doesn't do something, they can go sign somebody and get him in. So, I like him a lot too. I think he's right up there with somebody who you can draft and you can have a lot of confidence in getting a nice reward from. And if you don't get that, you can cut and not feel bad about it.
Yep. Hey, so I want to move on to Brandon Jones of Miami. I'm digging deep here, folks. So this is one of the three, if we have time, my IDP sleepers for this year. And when I'm talking sleepers, I'm talking deep sleepers. There's a definition of a sleeper, and there's a guy that's just really – either way, I'm just going to move on from that topic. But I'm going to go ahead with Brandon Jones of Miami. Last year, he was a rookie. He came in. He played the third safety. I've been keeping an eye on him after, claiming him as one of my sleepers a couple of months ago. And it's a positive. We got a rookie, Hamelin or something. Holland. There you go. Thank you. We got a rookie out there named Holland. I do believe Holland will see the field. I do believe Eric Rowe will see the field. What I'm thinking is, if I remember my stats right, Brandon Jones, when he played last year for only about 30 or 40% of the snaps, when he was on the field, he was making a play about every fifth play. For a safety, that is outrageous. That is a good pace, especially for a kid that's just coming in and playing. So he graded out well. The reports are going in his favor that he's going to get a shot just as much as Eric Rowe or the rookie to get a starting gig. So I'm going with Brandon Jones. I think he's going to make a bigger impact this year. I really think that he would be one of those guys that he did so well last year that he at 90% of the snaps this coming year would definitely put him on our radar. Don't draft this guy as a, sure thing DB1. Grab him at the end of your bench, into your drafts, get him off the waiver wire, whatever you can do. He's got a lot of potential. And as long as he plays at least as good as he did last year, he actually has a good shot to replace Eric Rowe by mid-season at strong safety.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I just think that Holland's involvement with that defense could be a lot higher and a lot more, quickly evolving in there. And Brandon Jones could be the guy who suffers. It looks like Eric Rowe's the one who's going to fall apart and kind of go by the wayside. That's what I would predict to happen. But I don't know if I feel with extreme confidence that that's what's going to happen. It could be Brandon Jones. I'm not feeling anyone in that secondary as being someone I'm highly confident in, but I am confident in whoever does get that playing time and is out there a lot is going to produce. So I like Brandon Jones as somebody late in the draft, someone you can just go grab and see what happens, kind of like our first two picks, just at the secondary position. But I'm just not so sure that he's likely to hit. But I definitely don't mind the pick at all.
Sweet.
I like him long term more than this year, really. And the biggest wild card for me is they brought in Jason McCourty, who can play all over that secondary, and with them clearly feeling that division is up for grabs, that they can go, get a wild card or possibly win it. Another veteran presence back there that could play all over. I'm not saying he's going to take that position and just run with it, but he's a guy that they're able to plug and play all over the place. And that secondary, I just think, is going to end up being some sort of a mess to start the year, and we're going to have to see where it plays out. But if you're getting Jones for free, yeah, why not? Because I think long-term he has a spot there.
Yep. Remember, folks, I said deep sleepers.
You're right.
All right. Round to you, James.
All right. So, since we're talking about deep sleepers, I'll talk about one no one's ever heard of before. His name, it's Jamal Adams. It's someone not on any boards anywhere. People have no idea who this guy is.
Yeah, not at all.
All kidding aside, he's not only my number one DB, he's my number one asset in all of IDP. It's a pretty hot take because people always love to go to those linebackers and get that guaranteed tackle. But when you think of value over replacement players, you think of guys like Travis Kelce on the tight end side over on offense and someone who just dominates the rest of his field at his position. That's what Jamal Adams does. His pro-rated stats last year are insane if he stayed healthy. He wasn't that healthy, yet he was still one of the best DBs overall by season totals by the end of the year. He's got that type of upside. He's got as close as you can find to league-winning upside on the IDP side, especially in most leagues where IDPs just don't score like offense. He can give you just insanely good variance if things come together to just help you straight up win the league and win weeks, multiple weeks, every week. He's just that good and that much of a risk that I think is worth taking. And I think everyone kind of generally wants to fall back on that safe, nice linebacker who's got a nice non-injury floor. But I think we all know that injuries aren't exactly predictable, and I don't think Adams' injury proneness is any higher than any other linebacker. And so he's my number one overall fantasy asset, and I say that with confidence. And I think that take isn't out there as much as it should be, and I think it'll start coming out soon enough. But right now, that's what I want to get.
It's a spicy take, certainly. I mean, like you said, with the average IDP ranker or viewer. But I do like it, and I also think that you can probably, if you do feel that strongly or even close to that strongly, in a lot of places you might be able to get him a little bit cheaper than you would have a year or so ago. I mean, the last couple of years he has started to miss some time, and like you said, I mean, his stats last year, even in the limited playing time, were nuts, and I think you're probably going to be seeing more of that with Seattle having a way more competent offense than the Jets had. So if you can go out and get him at any sort of a discount, or even if you feel that strongly and you don't mind paying up a little bit, he's a great guy to have.
I'm getting defensive on it. I'm saying know your format. Know your format. If it's a balanced or tackle based, I have balanced or tackle based, I have no problem with it. But if that is a sack heavy league, there's no way that I'm going to reach for Jamal Adams. And you know that's just a dry cut there at you on getting defensive James. I had to come up with something. I like Jamal Adams. I'm not taking Jamal Adams number one in my book. It's just me.
Yeah, it's definitely a spicy take, and it's not for everyone. People don't necessarily want to have those jalapenos.
Yep, some spice cake. All right, so I think you're Kraig.
I think I'm up here. Yeah, I think I'm up here. And I'm going to go to sort of one of the forgotten positions that we have here, and I'm going to go cornerback, and I'm going to go over to the Chiefs for second-year player, L'Jarius Sneed. He only played in 9 games last year, is injured for 6 of them. But he performed really well when he was on the field. He had a knack for the ball, and he also went out there and got tackles. I think he ended up in those 9 games with like 31 solos and 10 assists. He showed a lot. He has that size. He has a nose for the ball. Like a lot of young guys, he has to learn to play with more control and not always bite. But that's a secondary that is going to get targeted a lot. That whole division is trying to beef up their offenses to keep up with the Chiefs. And, as long as Mahomes is healthy, that's going to be an explosive offense. Like you guys like to say, and I've always been used to this too, know your league. If it's cornerback specific, clearly has a lot more value than if it's just defensive back. But even in the defensive back flat position league, I think that he could have deeper value as a guy that we know is going to be out there as a starter this year, at least at the current time he's going to be a starter. And I think if he's healthy, he has a really good shot to maintain defensive back value.
Yeah, I have no arguments there. I'm not a big cornerback guy, but I'll tell you what, since I've seen this, it was kind of funny. I noticed, and I was in a draft recently, and I'm in an IDP only draft, and I did notice that his average per week that he did play, very exceptional.
Yeah, I like Snead a lot as well. He's very high up there in my cornerback rankings. And, as most of our viewers probably are well aware, when you're looking at the cornerback position, you're not necessarily looking for the shutdown corner. You're looking for the guy who's going to get targeted. And Snead, if he projects to be where we all think he's going to be on that defense as the season hits, he's going to be a guy who gets targeted. So he should get production. I will say that I'm just a little bit more wary of the Kansas City offense than probably anyone else on earth, in that I just don't think that they're a shoe-in to be the number one overall offense next year. They don't exactly have any wide receivers. Travis Kelce's not young. And yeah, Mahomes is still Mahomes. So they're going to be good. But I don't know if necessarily they're going to see that defensive passing volume that we all just think is just set in stone. So I have a little bit more caution with him. But overall, I agree with everything Kraig said. And if you don't think that I'm as doom and gloom on Kansas City's offense as you are, then go ahead, take him. I have no issues with that at all.
Rock and roll. So, I have no disagreements at all. Tyquan Lewis. We're going to get here's your chance, James. Tyquan Lewis of the Indianapolis Colts. He's heading into his fourth year of his contract. Actually, he's been hurt here and there. Another one of these deep IDP tipster breakout calls I make each year. And, I know they got a new rookie. I know they have a former second rounder that's going to get healthy. Matter of fact, they got another rookie out there that I believe that they got like a round or two after their high pick of Payne. And he's just starting out the injury, or you're injured or something. Give me Lewis. Give me Lewis. They haven't signed Justin Houston. Lewis did well in his limited play last year after finally getting healthy, getting in rhythm. Hey, guys, not everybody comes out of the gate bringing a full stud just because they were a first-round pick. I do believe, if I remember right, Lewis, I don't even know that for sure because I give a shit about rookies most of the time. But I'm telling you this. When it comes to Lewis, the plans are right now, as of right now, the reports coming out, they want Lewis to assume that role. He's going to be a pass rusher. He's going to probably be a defensive end. And I'm thinking, I just have this confidence. Maybe he's not a tier one dude, but he's certainly going to be a breakout player, which I'm talking deep, guys. So only thing he has to do is make a level 2 impact. He's worth somebody to add to the end of your roster.
I guess I'll start with this one in that I'll get defensive, and I just don't see it happening. Teams don't draft 2 pass rushers to start their draft like the Colts did. If they have any faith in their guy, yes, Lewis should be pegged to start, and yes, he could come in and he could get that production. But there's a lot of people in the NFL who are pegged to start and could get some production and ultimately don't. And I don't believe in the Colts. I also don't think that there's going to be very many pass rushing situations for these Colts, because I think their offense is going to be absolutely awful with Carson Wentz, and that's going to lead to a lot of end-game rushing attempts. So maybe Lewis can be okay in tackle-based leagues where he's just going to get some volume, maybe, but I don't see any kind of big sacks coming his way. And also, once everyone gets healthy on the defense, which might not even be this entire year, I don't see him as anything more than just a guy, and I don't think he's a guy I want to bet on. Yes, we're in the offseason, so anyone has the potential to grow. But like Gary said, they didn't re-sign Justin Houston, but I'm expecting them to sign somebody eventually. I don't think that this is Lewis's job come week 1, and if it is, I don't think it's going to be his job come week 6. I'm just not a believer. I'll say stay away. Even at the end of your draft where you're not investing much into it, invest somebody else or invest in somebody else. I just think it's a better investment, as I just don't see Lewis doing it. So this is one where me and Gary just disagree.
Yep.
Much like Darrelle Revis, I'm going to leave you out on an island here, Gary. I'm not really a Lewis truther either. And it seems like the Colts lately have just been in love with spending second-round picks on defensive ends, hoping one of them is going to, pan out. They did one this year. 2019, they did one. They did 2 in 2018, of which Lewis was one of them. And it just seems like they're hoping one of these guys ends up sticking when none of them have thus far. And to James's point, I think, yeah, it could be Lewis, but I don't think that I've seen enough. And it doesn't seem like draft strategy-wise that they feel that they've seen enough out of him. They probably do want to give some playing time at least start of the year to see, hey, is this a guy we have interest in re-signing at all since he knows the system and everything? But I think the first sign of things just not going well, they're not getting what they want out of him, they're going to turn to one of those other guys. And he's, again, someone like James said that I'm not really interested in investing in at the moment.
Fair play. He should be on plenty of waiver wires, folks.
That's true.
Should be on plenty of waiver wires. So if you happen to have a little bit of room, don't wait until week 2 when he's hot commodity. All right. Yours.
Middle of the season, Kraig. If Gary's right, we'll hear about that one. So.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, you will.
All right, so I'll attack with my final pick, which is Darnell Savage. Kraig kind of hit on some of these points earlier when he was talking about that linebacking core, but Green Bay's got a defense where people are going to produce because of their offense. It's just going to happen. And I know historically the secondary, especially those safeties in Green Bay, have been very replacement level. They've never been anyone who's stepped up and become an impact player. But I believe in Darnell Savage. I think with the addition of Eric Stokes, he's just going to have those opportunities back there to kind of play that wild card and just go wherever he wants and do whatever he does and just accumulate plays while everyone else is just back there taking those passes in and playing that standard secondary defense. He's just someone I believe in. I got him very high in my dynasty rankings because I think long-term his ties to that defense are just top-notch. And someone I just think that you should really invest in as a strong DB number 2 in a 12-man league, someone who you can project as, the 16th best guy and say that with enough confidence to actually invest there. I know right now that's kind of a lukewarm take. It's not super spicy, but it's also a take that I feel like isn't out there enough. Because, again, when you look at IDPs and you look in the secondary, you got to look at targets, you got to look at opportunities, and that Green Bay secondary is going to have that. And I'm just projecting that Savage is the one who gets to get that production, gets to go get maybe some sacks, gets to go play in that box, get some tackle volume. And it just seems very appealing to me. And he's young enough, and there's been enough opportunity back there where players haven't exactly stepped up and become studs that people are kind of forgetting that they could be. Like, we all remember the hype of Clinton Dix and how amazing he was going to be. Well, Darnell Savage might be the guy who actually meets that hype and becomes a perennial top 8 finisher, top 10 finisher. I think it's possible, and I just think he's being sold a little short right now. So my advice is go buy him.
Nothing's impossible. I'm kind of getting a defensive a little bit. I think that it's possible when you got a pass rush like they have with Preston Smith and Jadarius Smith, and you got Kenny. Top 8? You're pushing it there for me, James. Maybe top 15. That's the best I've got.
I'm up in the land of the cheeseheads, even though I'm not one myself, so I hear about these guys all the time. And to the opportunity and how little that he's talked about in IDP circles, I agree with James that I think he has a very solid chance.
I'm just losing these battles, man.
That's all right.
That's cool. That's what it's about.
I really think that he has a clear shot, whether Aaron Rodgers is there or not, of being a, like you said, top 16, top 24, whatever safety, in that DB2 conversation. The lack of linebackers clearly helps him with those opportunities, as he's a guy that they have already played up closer to the line of scrimmage. He scored out well last year when he played, and he only improved over his rookie year, which is what you want to see. So I like it.
Yep. I'll tell you what, somebody's got to stand up in Green Bay, right? Somebody's got to do it. Why not Savage? So maybe next year we'll be looking at him as a tier 1 top 10. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish off. I think we've recapped. I'm going to go with the last guy that we're talking about, Jared Davis. Another one of I just want to update. He's definitely in their plans. You can't throw stats on a player that, one, was overdrafted, and 2, after Patricia got done with him, he was rags. So we're looking at this as a new start in New York. And there's people saying that there's multiple reports coming out that this guy is going to be strong safety or a strong side linebacker and not the weak side linebacker, that's going to be Cashman, that there's these other rookies. Okay, look, folks, what it boils down to when I really look at what's going on, at least from the reports to back me up, because I can't throw anything else at you, is the fact that people believe that Mosley and Jared Davis are day one starters. All right. So again, this is a deep on my part, deep, type breakout type thing. I think that it's possible that Jared Davis has the best season he has ever had, and it's including when he first played for the Detroit Lions.
That's a take that I kind of want to disagree with a lot, but I'm also kind of finding it hard to disagree with. I always understand and agree with Gary's takes on rookies, which are everyone sees the hype, everyone sees the past production, and everyone goes, oh, this is going to happen. And then it kind of usually doesn't happen that way. And Jared Davis has now gone from sexy hype rookie to unsexy former hype rookie who's now just a guy somewhere doing something. But this Jets team, there's going to be someone who gets that production by default. And I don't think that Jared Davis is the likely guy to get it. But do I know what I'm talking about the Jets linebacking core? No, I don't. I don't know the intricacies of that. It could be anybody back there. My bet is C.J. Mosley. But if Jared Davis steps up and becomes that guy, great. I really don't know the contract situations there, so I feel like one of those guys will probably get cut if those linebackers are as good as they're supposed to be, those rookie ones. But in all likelihood, they won't be. In all likelihood, Davis and Mosley will just be back there getting production, just being guys. And I don't think it's a bad investment in a redraft league. In a dynasty league, 1 year and done for Davis. Yeah. But redraft, I've got no issues there. And I think
he would need a huge season to get signed again. He got paid $5 million, one of the first ones. Dead on. I'm just talking deep. I appreciate it, James.
Yeah, Mosley, I think, is going to probably be the guy there. Just with how much money they have invested in him, they're going to try to force him to be the guy. And Davis, I at least, like you said, as a sleeper to throw out there for the price that you can probably get him for close to free at this point. I do think that he starts, and if there is a team that I think he could go to, oddly enough, we're saying this about the Jets, he could go to sort of rehab his value and become something again. With Robert Saleh, with that defense, they need someone else there. They are going to have, I think, a much improved defensive line overall, so they're not just going to get eaten up back in that linebacking core. He'll have someone like Mosley to learn from, and like I said, there isn't a whole lot else of knowns with that linebacking core. So if you're taking a shot, why not? He's got the athletic profile to succeed.
I personally don't think they're going to put Mosley in harm's way after the last two seasons. Personally, I think but they got a $5 million linebacker that's not that bad considering the depth, and they just throw him in there and let him beat himself up. So that's the best I got, folks, and that's the best we have for you on Getting Defensive tonight, presented by GridironRatings.com. Hey, folks, please go subscribe to YouTube. If you subscribe, which I don't happen to have it scrolling tonight, but we're giving away draft books, playbooks, Gridiron Ratings draft books, sorry. And the only thing you got to do is subscribe. For every 25 that we get, we give one away. You're always going to be in the pool. So with that being said, I want to say goodbye, and I want to thank Kraig again for joining us. He's going to become a permanent fixture on a weekly basis. And James, thanks for hanging around, man.
Of course, glad to have you guys. Excited to talk and excited for time to elapse, so we're closer and closer to that great NFL season.
Yes, it is.
That's what it's all about this time of year.
Bye, guys.